fostering has affected our marriage and relationship just in the sense of time, having that time with each other. Because you spend a lot of time with the children, just working with the children through behaviors, whatever it may be. But we also learned a lot through that too, even though the time together is spent with the children.
How fostering affected my relationship or my marriage, it did not. That was because that was something we discussed prior to going into it. And I think that anything in marriage, you have to have a commitment. One, you're committed to each other, and you're also committed to the goals of your family. And so that's something you discussed beforehand. So it would not have, there was no effect of it.
Adopting, fostering has been affecting our marriage basically because we are tired.
We are polar opposites. If you did our personality profiles and you took mine and flipped it upside down, then it would match his. And so throughout our marriage, that's been both a strength and a weakness for us. But we have found that as foster parents, it is definitely a strength.
So adopting did affect our marriage in both negative and positive ways. In the negative, it's a tremendous amount of stress just going through the process of adoption and then welcoming a complete stranger into your home and adapting to meet their needs and them adapting to you. It creates stress, and stress ends up, leading to arguments.
I would have to say that it has strengthened my relationship. And I think my husband would definitely agree with that. But it has been challenging because we don't always see everything the same way. I tend to overgive. I would like to say yes more, but he helps bring some balance to that.
It's a crucible almost for marriage. Your marriage is either going to get stronger, or it's going to, I assume, that it's going to start adding and building up crack, making the cracks wider.
Sure.
Because you have to look at it as, like we're talking about, a shared problem that you're working together to solve. And that's
my husband kind of goes with what I want, I would say. So getting his true yes or no out of this situation is a challenge for me. But once I get that yes or no, I think we're pretty much on the same sheet of music as far as everything else. We typically agree with each other on everything else.
I would agree. A happy wife is a happy life.
When things got hard, we leaned on each other. When things were fantastic, we celebrated together.
Right. And the difficult way for us is that it's very difficult to make alone time when you're constantly dealing with high needs children, and we usually are. So we just carve out that time where we can. We are not good at making that time as some couples are. We don't have a regular date night or a sitter set up. It has never been something that's worked very well for us, but we've been married for 34 years, so I think we're doing okay.
Do be consistent. Mm-hmm. Kids who have been in care are great at survival. They've had to develop some techniques to become able to survive in hard circumstances. But some of those techniques include deception or manipulation or triangulation. That's where you pit one adult against another. And again, that's not their fault, but it's what they've had to do to survive.
The don'ts would probably be to not accept a placement without asking the other. The biggest one.
I would say some do's and don'ts on fostering when it comes to your marriage is, one, most important, do not let the children, whether it's your biological kids or foster children, get in between your marriage. Don't let them play, well, mom say this and dad say that in between. Make sure you communicate with each other first before and come to the kids with a unified answer.
The biggest do is always communicate with each other before you communicate with your kids.
Something that we found works for us is make sure you have time for just the two of you. It's really easy to let kids consume your life. And this is whether you're a biological parent, foster parent, or both, we love our kids. We love our foster kids. We love our biological kids. But there are times where we just need to escape and do stuff. And having a great support network allows us to do that. We have some neighbors who about once a month or so will call us and say, hey, what are you doing this week? Could you take a night off and we'll take the kids?
Definitely a do make sure you are both in agreement before you say you will take in a child or do whatever in that child's life.
Is that it's the same things that we would do with our own children, because when you're fostering, they are your children. So the same things that parents do with their own natural children, they would do with fostering. The same rules apply. There are no different ones.
Let's see, dues. Communication's always important. Whether it be if we need a break, whatever it may be, if we need respite, need to get someone to watch the kids for a bit or something. That's always a big due, I guess, is having respite, having a time of rest away from them.
There. So just, don't let the kids kind of come in between with what you do, And kids will do it. Yeah, that's the nature. Kids will try it and, try to, say, well, mom said this or dad said this. So just talk about it. And then explain that to the kid.
Don't let them, use triangulation of, well, this one said, or that one said, or you're so much nicer than that one. At the end of the day, it's you and your spouse, and you are the team that is there to support your children. And you can't do that if you're fighting each other. So that would be my biggest do and don't.
I think you covered it.
There is some difference, because what are some differences in fostering your bio kids versus adoptive kids? If they're fostering kids, they're still, of course, belong to the state, and so there's some guidelines to what you can and cannot do. And far as once they become adoptive, now they're your children, and so there are no do's and don'ts, and you treat your children the same way you would treat your bio children, because they are now your child. So there is no difference. The only difference is, I think, that when they're fostered versus bio, or whether they're your bio children. When they're, of course, fostered, there's some things like you can't get ears pierced without consent of court, and you can't color their hair some crazy color that the child may want, or you can't cut their hair. Those are some things that you can't do with a foster child versus adopted.
Of course, there's a difference. Because when you think about it, biological kids, of course, you were with them from being an infant, throughout the years. So they understand, you understand them, because you're teaching them different things, right from wrong. You're teaching and mentoring them. A foster kid, depends on what age they are. As an infant, as a foster kid, it's no difference, because you're training, you're teaching them while they're young. But a certain age may come in your home as a foster. They may not have experienced the same type of parenting that you do. They may not have had the opportunity that the parents to sit down with them and go over their homework. They may have not had those opportunities to sit down at a dinner table as a family and eat. So there's a difference. There may be some pushback initially on, well, hey, I may not, because they're not used to doing it.
Yes. For one, you can't, there's certain discipline that you can and cannot do with children in care. Biological children, we try to keep it the same if we can, as far as correction or what have you. But there's definitely a difference. Sometimes the kids notice and say something, sometimes they won't notice. But we try to keep it as fair as possible between all children.
As far as how you discipline in your home, that is different. You have to take into account where your foster or adoptive child has come from. If they've come from a place of abuse, physical abuse, you need to be very careful about doing any body language that makes them feel threatened. Or even I whisper a lot sometimes in my house, and I'll be honest, when I was a younger mom, I used to yell a lot, and I hardly yell anymore, because that really frightens children, to feel like mom or dad is out of control, you know?
I can't pinpoint the difference, but there is a difference. I almost feel like it's born into chaos, so they're more chaotic, and I don't feel like my bio children were born into chaos like that. So it's really a retraining of their brains, even though
I think that my older children probably see a kinder, gentler mother and father than they saw when they were growing up, but they knew what our limits were. They knew they weren't really in any danger, just in danger of getting grounded or losing something important to them. But so in that way, it is not the same, and we have to be careful.